Hello, Seattle. I'm Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and I'm here to introduce my friend, the Sovereign of Seattle, Caston Rex, as he gives his speech, the 7th annual New Year's speech. To watch the pregame shows that feature Eminem, Donald Trump, radio talk show hosts that you've literally not heard anywhere else, you may check out Caston Rex's Facebook page for full episodes. There are thoughtful things in each of them that I hope that you enjoy, including a Canadian one. Veuillez rester prêt pour le discours. S'il vous plaît, profitez du spectacle. Merci beaucoup. We hope that you enjoy the show, and thank you very much for listening.
And they can dish it out, but they can't eat it themselves very well. Honestly, I was proud to see Caston stand up for himself. It proves he has self-respect. I was rooting for him. I said, go, Caston! Keep swinging, buddy. And he did.
Well, sir, any last thoughts tonight?
God bless America, make America great again, and God bless Cascadia, and God save the king. Good to see you, Marshall.
Good to be talking with you, sir. Thanks again, Mr. President. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are minutes away from the 7th annual New Year's speech. I've been your host, Marshall Mathers. Please rise if you would like for the National Royal Anthem, and then the speech will begin. Ladies and gentlemen, Cascadians, all hear now His Majesty, the King. Good night.
God save our gracious King. Long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Shout out to Patrick. How are you? Once upon a time, a long time ago, well, not that long, in the mysterious land called the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, there was a young man in a high school, and he was rushing toward a teacher's classroom whom he actually did not have in any class. This teacher was Susan Ferrantino, and he would ask her for a ride home if she would drive him. She felt uneasy about doing it for reasons that might be unsaid but obvious, but she never failed to do so. She would give him a ride home because his school bus was so awful, and the anti-gay, homophobic abuse he took on that school bus so terrible that he did not want to ride it, ever. So much so was this prevalent in his high school that he never changed for gym, and on the coldest of winter days, in Pennsylvania winters, which, if you've ever experienced them, are quite cold, would wear shorts to school and freeze, rather than go into the locker room to change with the other boys. They made it clear that he wasn't welcome in there on day one. Does that sound like a nightmare to you? That was my life. I was that little boy. And so, this year, I want to begin with a shout out to Susan Ferrantino, a great teacher, because you can never underestimate, and it cannot be said too strongly, how important it is to have a good teacher. Thank you, Susan. Mrs. Ferrantino, for everything. Tomorrow, January begins. To the ancient Romans, where our calendar comes from, it is named for Janus, the god of portals and transitions and beginnings. Janus leads us into a new beginning, marking an ancient period of religious importance preparatory to the beginning of the year, and itself coinciding with the opening of the natural year after the winter solstice. This is a point in the year in which we consider it to be a gate into the new year. It is no coincidence that the Latin word for gate is Janua, named after Janus as well, the god of entrances, and so the month was named Januarius. And it's appropriate to the first lengthening of the days and the daylight, and the entrance of the sun onto a new course astrologically. While February is the month of purifying, or regeneration, like the Lent of Christian calendar leads up into the resurrection, the period in which the living were made ready for the civil and religious work of the coming year, as well as the yearly duties paid to the dead, was January and February. The Romans thought January must be the first month because Janua, a door, is the first thing, the entrance, through which you pass into a new year, as into a house or into a temple. The rites of December and of January are for the most part festive and social. Those of February are mystical and melancholy, characteristics which have their counterparts in the Christian Christmas, New Year's, and Lent. On January 1st, after the year 153 BC, in and after which the consuls in Rome began their year of office on that day, it is customary to give New Year's presents by ways of good omens called streniae, a word which survives in the French word étrennes. It's likely an older custom, though, but the word is said to be derived from the name of an Etruscan goddess, the goddess Strenia. The goddess Strenia is for whom the French get the word étrennes, or étrennes. It's a word that translates to the New Year's gift, or, earlier, the Christmas present in English, and it can also refer to this tradition of giving money or gifts or recognitions to essential workers at the end of the year, such as postal workers, firefighters, etc. Latin goddess Strenia bring good fortune to all who would give her gifts, and so gifts are given. And yes, there were firefighters in ancient Rome. They had irrigation, after all. You'd be surprised what the ancient Romans have. Twigs, gold, garlands, and other things were carried to her temple. Strenia is the goddess of New Year in Etrusca, of purification and of well-being. She had a shrine and a grove at the top of the sacred way. And these things, including laurels, would bring luck. Gifts, coins, even gold were exchanged by the Romans and by the Etruscans, accompanied with good wishes on New Year's Day in honor of Strenia. Amongst the many traditions in the mysterious land where I come from, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where witches are more prevalent than I realized, and far more populated there than anywhere else in the land, you will find that magic incorporates itself throughout every New Year's tradition somehow. Eating pork and sauerkraut is an Amish tradition, as well as a Pennsylvania Dutch tradition that has carried on to this day. That will bring you good luck in the new year. It's the victory pig for your coming victory, whatever that victory might be for you. And it is said to inaugurate an auspicious start to the new year. To say the words rabbit, rabbit in Welsh, and my family is part Welsh, is one of our own traditions. That to say rabbit, rabbit is a magical incantation from ancient Wales. That if you say that as the first thing you say at the first day of the month, on any month, but especially the new year, that will bring you good luck for that month, especially if you say it every month, on the first day of every month. Another tradition, the New Year's kiss. The first kiss that you have after midnight. It's a more recent tradition, but it's a nice one. Last year, my New Year's kiss was our cat and our son, His Royal Highness Prince Sebastian, the Prince Felix, Duke of Cumberland. No, that's not his full title, but that's the best part. Before that, Anthony. Before that, our late but best beloved Jaren, which is okay because he's been late for ever since I've met him. And before that, in 2017, a man who's joined Jaren, the incomparable, the beautiful, the intelligent, and the otherworldly Mr. Aaron Culver. This year, Aaron fell ill, and joined Jaren on the other side. Words cannot express how much his friends, who are his family, miss him every single day. I often think about Aaron, the interesting and fascinating things he had to talk about, his hopefulness for the future. His life cannot easily be summarized. During his eulogy, I said that Aaron, an atheist, must have only been an atheist because he lived in a world without mirrors, and that his story, his life story, mirrored, in many ways, the demigods' stories of old, of divinity that became embodied and incarnated in human form. How else could he not notice, I asked, unless he lived in a world without mirrors, the divinity that we all saw in him, the twinkle and the sparkle of fire in his eyes and in his hair. Of Aaron, we can say much, but he would not want me to go on and on about him, so I will summarize this in a quote from Lord Alfred Tennyson from his poem Locksley Hall. For I dipped into the future, as far as human eye could see, saw the vision of the world, and all the wonder that would be. Aaron, it seems we've hardly known you. We love you. And we miss you every day. as I said, it is also the day where we must pay our respects to the dead. Insofar as my life and my family goes, we have had a very rough year, but our spirits have never been higher, our hopes have never been more hopeful, and hope, as always, is springing eternal in our family, and we hope also in yours. We have every reason to be hopeful for the future, because we look at our present, and we must remember it's not that bad, no matter how bad it might be. I've learned that lesson myself firsthand this year. In a series of lessons, it began on my birthday, when my father, that very morning, was in a car accident that was fairly severe. He sustained injuries, his head was banged up, and he had internal bleeding and was taken to Geisinger Medical Hospital in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. My dad survived. Dad, I love you very much. The greatest birthday gift I could have ever received is the great news that you are okay. My mom is also well. To have both of my parents is a gift I am so grateful for. Is a gift beyond measure and beyond expressibility from me, because the English language does not, in fact, have any words adequate enough to describe how grateful I am and how much I love them both. And although they are far away from me, in many ways, I love them more purely, more wholly, and more fully than I have ever before. And in so many instances of darkness, I found what they have had to say wise, useful, and their advice has literally saved the day. Both of my parents, Mom, Dad, thank you so very much. I love you both. And in many ways, although they are far away, I have never been closer to them before, and I can't wait to see them very soon. Thanksgiving was also a bit of a nightmare due to a technological issue with my phone, which failed and became unusable. Just before Thanksgiving, I unfortunately spent the holiday alone. Well, not alone. I spent the holiday without most of my family, without Anthony, with no way to buy food because everything was through my phone, unable to communicate with anyone, without entertainment of any kind, no music, no video, no television, no telephone, no way to pay for anything, no way to buy food. When Anthony went to go visit his sister, I also found myself without most of my family. I say most because Sebastian, our cat, Jaren's cat and my cat, was here with me. And together, Sebastian and I, in a quiet room, feasted our Thanksgiving feast on slices of turkey and mustard. In a very odd way, although I felt a pang of pain in my heart as I would go out for vaping and would see around me the other families who have gathered on Thanksgiving to share that experience with one another. I could not help but feel that pain and that heartache that I was not with mine. And the food smelled so good. But if there's ever a lesson in learning the true meaning of the holiday in America called Thanksgiving, I learned it. Because I cuddled my Sebastian and hugged him tighter as my family that I had on that holiday to spend it with. And Sebastian is just beside me right now as I'm speaking this to you, napping away. I love him very much, and it taught me to be grateful for him. Because he was there when no one else was, and he still is. Sebastian, thank you very much. The phone issues I experienced, technological debacle, but the ability to communicate or pay for anything made Christmas all the harder. Only days before Christmas actually was upon us, when I was finally able to reestablish everything, it was only 2 days before Christmas. I gathered together what I could. I was able to give Anthony some gifts. We went out to dinner, my treat, and that was my Christmas contribution, although I had hoped that it would be more. But what that did bring out in me was my creativity in song, in poem, and what I couldn't present in physical gift, I was able to give in other ways. It reminded me of the Christmas hymn, "Oh, what shall I bring him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would give a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Oh, what can I give him, so I give him my heart. In the bleak midwinter, frosty winds made moan. Earth stood as hard as iron, and water like a stone. Oh, what can I give him? What gift can I bring? even but a tiny flower, one fit for a king. Although my birthday, my Thanksgiving, my Saturnalia, although I was able to give gifts for Saturnalia, I made them myself. From paper and wax and clay. And Christmas. Although they were the most modest you can imagine, still, Christmas is even more modest for all of those mothers who send their children to Angeline's Room and Angeline's Day Room at the YWCA in downtown Seattle. Indeed, their voices on Christmas, their Christmas wishes, whatever holidays they celebrate, are far more important on any day to listen to than this speech or mine are. That's Sebastian, and he agrees. If you would, very kindly, please keep them in your thoughts, because if anyone deserves a nice Christmas, it's those kids and their mothers. Angeline's Room operates a daycare for homeless mothers to send their children to, and also a shelter for women fleeing from domestic violence and who are homeless generally in the cold, dark Seattle winter months. They do God's own work. Please keep them in your minds, and please keep them in your hearts as well. And hello to all my friends there, including Maria and Alana and Dominique and Aria. I've met so many wonderful people this year. So many people who are underestimated by almost all, for various reasons, but who have not failed to impress me and amaze me with how much they can exceed what other people would deem to be their capacities or limitations, including Delaney, who, by leaps and bounds, has grown into such a wonderful man. To my friend TD, whom is named so because he wants to be called the Determined. When I met him, TD would call himself the sorriest, and he was sorry how much of a loser he was, and he had been deemed so by all the people in his life who called him such. He was so depressed. He was thinking and contemplating about his end, even hoping for it. I was able to comfort him, and told him that kinder days are to come, gentler days are to come. And when will they come, he said. When will they come for me? I said, they could just be right now if you want. And with a kind voice, I encouraged him. And by the end of our interactions, he said he didn't want to be called the sorriest anymore. He wanted to be called the Determined. Because he was determined to get off of the dirt, stand up tall once again, and make everyone in his life proud of him. And when I told him that I was proud of him, he cried, as it was the first time in his life that anyone had ever told him that they were proud of him. TD, you're a rock star. Keep on going. I believe in you. This speech is for you. As Sovereign of Seattle, it is my duty to reward those who do well. And in the past, I have given out awards to people, including the Order of the Azure Lion, which I've spoken about previously. The Order of the Azure Lion is an order of chivalry, of sorts at least, as best as we can muster, that will honor and does honor those persons who would not go honored by society at all, and who society would overlook, even though they go out of their way and go above and beyond their calls of duty and are everyday heroes. Or those persons who are beset with problems and institutional blockages, for whom life is hard, who are in catch-22s, between rocks and hard places, between the devil and the deep blue sea, and yet they never give up. Sometimes the award is issued so that they don't give up, an encouragement to keep going. Sometimes it's issued in recognition that because they didn't give up, they succeeded. And in each instance, it has, to some greater or lesser degree, affected and positively changed the recipient. And it is our hope that those medals, trinkets, and tokens as they are, serve as a symbol to others that this person is doing the right thing. This person is onto something. This is a person you should emulate and be more like. The first was given to a fashion student who had a great deal of patience when dealing with all of her friends who were quite needful, but she still took care of them during COVID-19. The second, given to an Uber Eats driver who paid for, out of his own pocket, with his own money, an item that the store was giving him a little bit of hassle on that was very essential, really sorely needed. The third was given to a postal worker who, for a widow, went out of his way to collect his mail from one part of the city and bring it to his front door and delivered it when he didn't have mailbox access, and went out of his way and even made exception to USPS policies in order to do it. And lastly, the last medal was given to Anthony, very proudly by me, who, although he was beset with problems during COVID-19, trying to get the same stimulus check that everyone else got so easily, it took him months of hard work, besieged, as it were, by life's dilemmas, problems, and catch-22s everywhere. But Anthony did not give up. And when he got his check, he bought a car with his money. It was his baby, and he was very proud of it. The Order of the Azure Lion was limited to only 4. I am now expanding that order to include 4 more. And for these reasons, each of these recipients will receive a medal. They will also receive a copy of the speech I will be writing personally and delivering for them, recorded, or in person if they prefer, and a certificate framed from me, denoting the reasons why they received it. In order of their selection, we have Mr. Marcus Baker, for being himself in a world constantly trying to make him into somebody else, for retaining his Native American identity. It is very important for him to know that although he comes from a place far from here, just as I do, that Seattle welcomes you, embraces you, and is so happy that you are here. Shayla Higgins, who, much like the fashion student previously mentioned, has a great deal of patience, is a fashionista in her own right, and throughout her life has struggled with hardship, having stabilized and established herself in the midst of chaos and uncertainty, and each time, no matter what, coming out on top because she doesn't give up. She is a force to be reckoned with and a very good friend, and I am so very proud of her. And an honorable mention to her significant other, Mikey. David Musterman, who, last year, had provided us here at this house with so much handyman assistance, I could not begin to describe where we would be without him. He often came all the way from West Seattle, which, if you're familiar with Seattle, from there to where we are is not an easy trek to make. Whenever we needed him, he answered the call. When trouble was afoot, he came by to protect. And when a shoulder was needed to cry on, he was there for us. David is a hero to me. David is my hero. And this award is long overdue. And finally, to John Howard, a man whom I know from many years ago, a friend of Jaren's. When Jaren became late, my way of not using the D word, I received a mysterious package from someone through a third-party friend. It was a t-shirt, a simple t-shirt, a green t-shirt, that said America is scary on it. It was Jaren's t-shirt. Indeed, it still had the tear on it from when he and I went hiking in the woods and exploring and some bramble caught in his collar and tore it. That's how I knew it was his. This third-party friend did not say where he got it, did not say who gave it to him, but said that he was told that this would be important to me, special to me, or that I would appreciate it. I did not know until this year from whom it came. It came from John Howard. John, from me to you, directly, I offer you this award because you have done an incredible service for me, for Jaren, and for our family. One that I cannot express to you with words adequate enough to convey it, how grateful we are. And you, Shay, David, and Marcus have all exhibited the utmost of the most honorable tendencies by so doing. Credit is due where credit is due. And so, the Order of the Azure Lion will be expanded to include these 4 unique and wonderful individuals, who by their actions have put them in great favor with me, particularly in John's case, for he and I have not always seen eye to eye. And yet, he did that for me. And I didn't even know. That changes things. And so it is my pleasure, if they're willing to accept it, to induct each of these 4 remarkable people into the Order of the Azure Lion, for whatever that is worth to them. And finally, there is someone else in my company as I give the speech tonight. Anthony. My boyfriend Anthony, who is sleeping only a few feet away from me. And as he's sleeping a few feet away from me, he has a smile on his face right now, which is curling his lips on the side, so I know he's listening. It is my pleasure to promote Anthony, who is already an Order of the Azure Lion inductee, in fact, the Primus member of the Order itself, to a new order, which I'm announcing now, the Order of the Cascadian Empire. It's a higher order than the Order of the Azure Lion, and he will be its first member, holding the rank of Commander. Congratulations, Commander Bastine. It is appropriate, since he is now my engaged and betrothed fiancé. Surprise. I cannot wait to spend my life working hard to make him smile every day. And every day means every day. And finally, when Aaron Culver and I watched the fireworks at the Space Needle just down the street, as he gave me that New Year's kiss when 2016 turned into 2017, Aaron, this one is for you, because this is the song we were listening to. This version, sung by the college choir at Dublin. And this one is for Aaron Culver. May God Almighty himself bless and keep every single one of you. And may Zeus, great Jupiter Optimus Maximus, keep all of you in his eye. Happy New Year.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear.
No, our old acquaintances will not be forgot, for we won't leave them behind, and all of this will not be for naught in these days of Auld Lang Syne. I think we nailed it.